Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Creatives of Windsor Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Shirdown, and today I'm sitting down with local filmmaker Gemma Eva. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we are going to start at the beginning. The first thing I wanted to ask, how old were you when you started theater, and where did you start doing theater?
Oh, man. So I started theater when I was 7. So I remember starting to audition. I was 6 or 7 years old. Getting my first role at 7 at Theater Windsor. I'm not sure if they're around anymore, but eventually found my home at Corda Artistic Productions, and I've been a part of them ever since.
And what is your current position with them right now?
So currently I'm a board member because I'm living in Toronto now, so I can't participate in any of the live theater. But yeah, I'm still very, very much a part of them. They're still very much my family that I grew up with and learned with as an artist. That's when I started producing and directing. And eventually that love of theater evolved into my love of filmmaking. So
you did theater, when did you, because you currently aren't really doing theater right now, you're focused on filmmaking more. When did you say that you stopped I wouldn't say stop, but kind of stopped doing theater?
Not by choice. It was called the pandemic. My last show was 2019. I did Reefer Madness at Corda. Pandemic hit, and then by early 2021, that's when I made the transition to Toronto and started pursuing a career in film and media. Okay, yeah, so then COVID slowed, and then you just ended up moving up there, and then that was kind of it. Yeah. Yeah. When did you finish school? I finished school in 2021. That's when I finished. I went from, I did my BA at U Windsor for film, continued to do my master's, really, really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was really itching to pursue my career at the same time. So while I was finishing school, I was already working on set, so doing both at the same time, which ended up working out. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I was saying, I want to talk about a bunch of the past work you've done. Sure. But let's talk about, what is your current project, I guess, that you're working on right now? So currently, since the mid-2024, and I think I'll have this goal up next year as well, is just going to be a whole bunch of pitching. So we're pitching some documentary projects. I'm pitching a feature project. We'll see how that works out. That's a really big goal that I have right now. Just focusing on developing new projects after wrapping my most recent project, which is called Be Taylor, which was released in the spring of 2024. Which I want to keep asking about, but the ones you're currently pitching, can you talk about those or no, not yet? Not yet. Yeah, I guess you don't want to. They're just, that makes they're sense. Still babies. They're still seeds of ideas, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Every project that myself and my partner try to create are slightly more ambitious than the next, and so we'll see what happens. Do you who are you pitching these things to? Places like CBC Gem and stuff like that? Yeah, so we'll pitch to. So there's different types of funders and broadcasters. CBC we were successful with when we got greenlit in, don't know if it was 2022 or 2023, but that's when development started, was in 2022. But yeah, still pitching to different outlets on CBC, on Canadian broadcasters, or Telefilm's one of the biggest funders in Canada. So there's a couple major funders in the country. There's not a lot, and it's very, very competitive, so just got to keep trying. Do you think being in Toronto do you think that really helps with your personal projects? I think it helps make connections where it's just I still love executing and shooting the films in Windsor, because my goal is to bring whatever knowledge I learn in Toronto back to Windsor, because eventually I do want to come back and create more here, which we're still doing. We'll still come down and shoot our projects here. What was the question? Does being in Toronto help with your personal projects? I think being in Toronto has really helped with, like I said, making connections. I've been part of mentorship programs and just learning how the industry runs there, because unfortunately Windsor, we're not quite an industry just yet. There's the wanting to be an industry. It's very much driven by passion and community, which I think is beautiful, and I would not have wanted to learn any other way, because we create through passion. So I think eventually when we start learning more and bringing more of these industry standards to Windsor, I think Windsor can be has great potential to be a film hotspot.
Windsor's nice too for filming things because you can get a bunch of different looks and you don't have to go very far, right?
Totally. And we're a border city. Like, it's warmer than in Toronto, even just by a couple degrees. Like, it's not overly populated. You don't have to get like permits and things like that. And the community is very, very supportive. And I think that's beautiful.
Oh, that's true. You can just go shoot at a park and you don't really have to worry about there being 1 million people there.
Yeah. Or like cars and traffic. Like, it's just so interesting when you shoot things in Toronto and sometimes people are like yelling at you to like leave. But Windsor, it's like, at least the projects that I've done, most people are just so supportive.
Yeah, and you could like in one day even like go shoot in the woods and then go shoot downtown or something, and it's like doable. Whereas like Toronto, it's like good luck getting to two places.
It's connections, it's the know-how. It's just it's a lot more. Well, everything's a lot of work, but there's a lot more hoops you have to jump than like in Windsor as of now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, let's talk about your most recent film that came out this year that you're, is it still this year? It is.
Yeah.
Because it's December 20th. That came out in 2024, and it's B. Taylor. So yeah, like what is B. Taylor about and all that stuff?
Yeah, so B. Taylor was a mid-length documentary we did for CBC's Absolutely Canadian about a newly out queer woman who is on a journey of self-discovery and stand-up comedy.
Yeah, it was really good. I saw so when you showed it at Corda in the spring, what was that called? What showing was that premiere?
Yeah, so that was just like our very like intimate preview screening. So we had already released the long format of the film on CBC, and this was us working on our director's festival cut that we wanted to submit to festivals, which needed to be a bit shorter. So festivals, especially for shorter non-feature films, shorter the better. So we tried to do a version that was under 30 minutes. And so that preview screening was us to test to see how the audience was reacting to it. Are the joke lines landing? Are the dramatic parts working? And that was a great lesson to see how we had to adjust for when we finally submitted to festivals.
So I do want to say one thing to the audience. So B. Taylor is about Taylor Last, who after I saw this like first premiere, I invited Taylor on the podcast. So Taylor was on the podcast in the spring. So you guys can go look at that episode too. But we kind of talk about this documentary. Like it's not, because it wasn't really out yet, but now it's out. So we can get like more in depth into it. So how long was the movie when we saw it that first time?
I think that might have just been over 30 minutes. Like the one that's on CBC is 44, so it's like a 1 hour they call it. But that one was just over 30 and we were trying to get it under 30.
Okay. And what is your role? It's just you and your partner Callum that do everything, right?
So we lead the project. So I was the director, the producer, the writer, and co-editor, and Cal was the DOP and co-editor, who really like leads the editing. He's a lot stronger than I am. But when we come down to Windsor, like we hire like our audio down here and BCam operators. We have such a great crew in Windsor, so it's always brings us back. We love collaborating with the locals here.
Audio's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who do you guys use for that? Can you say?
Yeah. So for the bigger shoot, like for smaller shoots, usually it's just like director and DOP, and like I'm not a great audio person. I just like click record and hope the levels work out. But for the bigger shoots, do you know like Sikander Salim? He's great. And then Stephen Bourne, I think his last name is. Oh, it's embarrassing.
Nobody remembers names on podcasts. It's okay.
Steven, his name's Steven.
Okay.
He's great. I know he's a great local sound mixer.
Sorry, nobody can pronounce names on podcasts. And
yeah, okay. I can't pronounce anything. In fact, I'm talking right now. It's amazing. And for post audio, a good friend of ours, Will Rogers, who's also a fantastic composer, helps a lot in post. Post is a lot of work.
Yeah, I could imagine. That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
See, it's nice for like anything that I film. It's usually like wedding films or commercials.
Yeah.
And I can usually just like put a mic on them, which is a lot easier than having to like mic up a zone.
Well, even just like booming, it's just like you have to be like, just like when you're filming, like you have to be on it. You have to like feel where the beats are, where the action's happening. Like you just have to be so on it, so aware. And that's a great skill set to have, especially documentary.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm always a one-man show at my things, but at least I can clip the mic on them. Then you kind of don't have to worry about it. But then you see it. Where in a movie you can't see the mic, so
well, even in like not in fiction, like you kind of like you have your rehearsals, but it's just like sometimes like you have challenges, like let's say a shot's super wide and let's say you can't have a lav, like it's a lot of problem solving. So your audio, they say bad audio is less forgivable than like bad picture. So like audio is super, super important. So it helps to have people who are very knowledgeable.
I saw something before, and it was regular people don't see, what is it? Mistakes in picture. They don't see grain in like a photo, like if it's too grainy. Mm-hmm. They don't see that, but they see if it's out of focus. Mm-hmm. So essentially, like when you're taking pictures, crank your ISO, because a lot of people don't like to get that, mm-hmm. but crank your ISO so your aperture can stay at a level where everything is in focus, mm-hmm. Because they notice misfocus and they don't notice grain, like a civilian's eye.
Yeah. Civilian
doesn't see grain, and I thought about that like over time, like make sure it's not blurry. It can be grainy though.
Mm-hmm. There's little things that are forgivable, especially nonfiction, like. There's a little bit more forgiveness because it's real, because it's raw. At least like the film with B. Taylor, like it wasn't about like it looking like super sexy. It was about looking like real and authentic, and that was our goal when we went into it.
So you said that you do the timeline, like the slicing of the thing, and then Cal makes it like look really nice. Yeah.
So I mean, like if in the future, whenever we get a bigger budget, it'd be great to have editors that aren't us, but like us just still emerging. Like it still is very much in like our hands, and luckily we have each other. Like we know where our strong suits are as like partners and collaborators. So it's like I'm good at like timelining, making sure like finding the story, and he's good at cleaning it up, making it look nicer, making it look smoother, and being very, very meticulous with it.
And I was saying too, like doing the timeline part that you're saying, it's always very like daunting because you don't know where it's gonna go until you start. Like anytime I'm doing like a wedding film where I have to put a story together, mm-hmm. I'm always like, oh, like I have to do work, but I don't know where it's gonna go. Mm-hmm. But then you start and it always comes together.
Totally. Like for us, like there's different ways of approaching a timeline. And an edit, where at least for what we found worked for us was going through the transcripts. So finding the stories in the transcripts first, and like we had so much footage. We probably had 24 hours of footage, but knowing what we filmed, having the idea of where we kind of wanted to go with the story, doing the transcripts, highlighting where the story was, and starting from there. That was helpful.
When you guys are filming this, are you using cameras that you own, or are you renting cameras with your budget?
We luckily we have our own equipment. It's Calum's equipment. So he's been investing in himself like since I've known him. And that's really important to him, is to have his own equipment, which he like will rent out to other productions too when he's working on them. But the easiest way, especially for lower budget, especially stuff in Windsor, like it's great to work with people who also come with their equipment packages as well. Yeah. And that's even key in like Toronto as well. Like obviously they'll go to rental houses, and like I know Windsor has a rental house as well, which is fantastic. But it's a lot easier when people have their own packages.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about Gear House for Windsor? Mm-hmm. I think they stopped, but I don't know for sure. So I have to double check. But I would be really sad if they did, because it's really cool that they do that.
It was really cool that they did that.
Mm-hmm. So I apologize if they are still doing it, but I thought I saw somewhere that they stopped. But I'm gonna look that up. But that's okay. If you're watching, you can go look it up, and if they're still doing it, then rent something.
Gear House. If they are, like support local rental houses.
Yeah, Gear House. Yeah, I know. Yeah, like buying gear, I've always tried to only buy what I need. Mm-hmm. It takes, it's been like 10 years, and I finally am at a point where I'm like, I don't buy that much anymore.
It's nice. Well, like that's the thing. It's like if you, like I'm not a gearhead whatsoever, so it's like I'm probably not the right person to talk to about this. But like when you're buying gear, like it's what's the latest? Like how do you maintain its maintenance as well? And like because like I'm lucky as a director to be with a partner who has like camera and lighting, and like we have our audio as well, like not like the best audio setup in the world, but like we do have it for these kinds of cases. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely a benefit. in our partnership.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys are crazy. Cal's crazy to rent his gear. I don't even like touching my own gear. Letting somebody else use it, you know?
Yeah, he does it for others. Like usually sometimes he'll come with the gear as well, but like especially in Windsor, someone needs to rent something, like he's quite generous with it, which is really nice.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah. I don't know, it's so like I'm always like so gentle with my stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's some photographers and they'll like put their stuff in their bag and they won't put the lens cap on. I was like, you guys are stressing me out.
It stresses me out because I don't work with like the gear, like I'm just like it's like a baby. It's like a very expensive baby. And I'm just like, it's even if we're driving and like we're on like the road and we're doing something run and gun, like I'm holding it like a child. Like if he's driving, like.
Especially lenses, because if the glass moves and like the elements shift and it's all messed up.
Yeah, no.
Freaks me out.
It freaks me out. So that's why I'm just like, I'm so protective of it because like.
I was a guest at a wedding this summer and a wedding photographer left her like $4,000 one of like Canon's new lenses on the chair next to me. And she got back and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you're freaking me out. And she's like, I only left it here because you were here. I figured you'd watch it. And I was like, you're still freaking me out.
It's like leaving a kid in a car. It's like, what are you doing? Is that inappropriate? Sorry.
That's okay. Sorry. That's funny. So B. Taylor, it's from CBC Gem, like, well, it's with CBC Gem. Yeah. And it's on CBC Gem right now.
Yeah.
And that's 44 minutes long.
It's 44, like, at least we delivered a 44-minute, but it's, yeah, I guess on CBC with commercials, probably an hour. And
in the first festival it was at was WIFF.
Mm-hmm. So I think the timeline was, it was CBC Gem in the spring, so late March, early April. It went on broadcast, like on TV in August, and then festival premiere at WIFF in end of October. I think it was right after our wedding, the week after.
Yeah.
Our wedding, we premiered at WIFF.
And then you went on your honeymoon after that?
Right before. Before? Oh my God, it was crazy.
You did wedding, honeymoon, then WIFF?
We got married. We did like our little like trip, and then we arrived back in Toronto like at 11 p.m. Then got up at like 5 a.m. to drive down to Windsor for WIFF.
How did everything go at WIFF? Was it good?
Oh, it's nice. It's so nice to like celebrate and be with the other filmmakers, and it's like I just love the Windsor arts community. It's just so supportive, and people are just so passionate about what they do. So it's nice to get to see how everybody's doing and get to see people's work evolve every year. It's really, really nice.
Yeah. Now it's definitely fueled by passion because it's not fueled by money. So
no, one day, man, one day. The more we create, the more like the better our content gets, whether in quality and story. Like I think Windsor has a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So when did you guys start this project? Like when was, I don't know, how did it start? Did it start with an idea in your head?
Mm-hmm. It starts with an idea. It's funny, like what the idea was and how it evolved. Like it was going to be more general on like the Windsor comedy scene. I came up with this idea maybe in the summer of 2022, pitched it, and we got like our first like development go ahead in like December or November of 2022. And then it was interesting. We just started filming a bunch of like general content and found our story and really got to see Taylor as a character, and we're like, and discovered that it was her story. So we went less general with it and really focused on her journey as an emerging comedian.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's kind of cool how like a project can shift like that.
Totally. It's so interesting where you go from like, you hypothesize what your story is and how it's going to be, especially when you're shooting things as they happen, and how a story is born. And like it could have gone any which way. It could have been super boring with nothing dramatic happening, but life happens, and as it always does, and that's what becomes really interesting to follow. And being there in the moment, like we have footage from her from like August of 2022 when she first started comedy to like when she produced her own show in 2023. So it's just so interesting to see the highs and lows of her life and being right there in those moments.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. So you said that you were pitching it to a few other festivals right now?
Yeah, so how the film festival circuit works is you'll submit to a handful of film festivals, pray you get into at least a few good ones. Like you can submit to 50, but as long as you get into like a couple good ones, that's what's helpful for your next project. So sometimes you wait like 6 months to sometimes almost like for like 6 to 10 months to wait to hear back from these festivals.
Wow.
So we'll see.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot of work.
It's just a lot of waiting. It's anticipation. It's like I started doing my festival runs and research with like how to come up with your festival strategy when I was in film school, just with my little short films from my student films from school. And it's interesting now seeing how much more competitive it's gotten, especially even since the pandemic, as more people are creating. There's more people have access to good technology, and a lot of like it's becoming very prosumer, which is pretty cool, because you don't just have to be someone with a bunch of gear and a lot of money to make films. Like you can just be someone with your iPhone, as long as you have a good story and like you know how to compose a shot and have good lighting and audio. Like you can do a lot, like even with an iPhone.
Yeah, for sure. Isn't it crazy how much work you put into making this film, and now it's like this finished product, and I always see like it's just like it's this one thing now, but it was like years of work and like a million different crazy things, and then it's just one thing. It's
all a part of the journey. Like that's one reason why like I love theater as well, is just because a lot of the things that I love about creating the content isn't necessarily just the finished project, but the journey of getting there. So it's like doing theater, like I love the rehearsal process, and that's majority of your time in a show. Like at least for like community theater, like you have 2 weekends of shows, but like 6 months of rehearsal. So you have to love that 6 months. Just like with filmmaking, like you have to love being on set. Like you have to love like the pre-production and the post. You have to love the process, or else it's just like once it's done, you get your applause and it lives wherever it lives. But it's part of the journey of the teamwork, and in this case, like giving a voice to somebody who might not have had a voice before, or if it's for comedy, making people laugh in that moment. But you got to love the process.
So your brother is a filmmaker too. I guess you would say filmmaker too, right?
Yeah, like he's in the industry as well. Like we've created like at least when we first started making films, started creating films together, and now he's working in camera in the Toronto film industry, and he's killing it as well.
Let's jump back to that in a second. What do you do for work? What is your day job?
So my day job, I am a post producer for commercials. I'm a commercial post producer. So that's when a commercial's finished. Once a commercial's been shot, comes to me, and I work with like the editors and its execution to right before it goes to air.
Okay. So you like they show you what they made and you watch it and then kind of just go over like notes and stuff?
So like I'll have like a brief before it gets shot, or if it's an ad up, like I'm kind of aware of what it is before, what it needs to be, and that I'll like hire, like pick an editor, and like you do your audio mixes and you do casting calls for like voiceovers and all that fun stuff. I like schedule it and you budget it, and then you send it back to the agency once they're happy, and it's just running post-production.
Are you mostly behind the computer? Do you go to the shoots ever or not really?
I've gone sometimes. Sometimes you go just to see if there's anything. Oh, like we'll need some like VFX here. We'll need to like paint something out. So I'll add that to like our timeline. But if not, like it depends on the project.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How many projects are you currently working on at a time for work?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some like usually between like at least 2, sometimes like 4 to 5, like at the same time.
What are the timelines from like when the client hires your company to like when you deliver it? I'm sure it's different every time.
Oh, it can sometimes, because sometimes you go through like a research process too. So like before a commercial hits like the air, sometimes you can do a year of research where they're like creating like boardmatics or animatics, and they're showing test audiences and see how that works out, and they're constantly adjusting and testing, and then it goes into like production and then post-production. So sometimes it can take a couple years. Sometimes if it's really quick, it can take like a couple months. So it really varies. What
are some of the ones that are already done? Can you talk about like what are the commercials of? Like what are just like an example of like 1 or 2 that you've done?
Well, I've done, what was the most recent one I did? What's out right now? We did one for FedEx this summer.
Okay.
We did for Luke Halla, we did some Rockstar bits for social media. What else? What else have I done?
How long are these commercials usually? Like 30 seconds?
So 30 seconds are pretty long. If it's for social, usually you'll do like a 6-second or a 15-second, depending on where it goes. And sometimes you're executing like a few 6 like cut downs. They'll say, for me at least, like the shorter the better for most of the time. Like that's what you see more, and that's what gets the most views. Like we did one recently for Kijiji, and that like blew up. That got like a few million views. It did really well.
Is Kijiji still around?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they did a little thing. It was called like KGG, and it was just this like meme looking like TikTok video, and it like blew up on TikTok.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how I started my business, was Kijiji.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't take credit for like writing any of them. That's the very talented advertising team. I just execute post-production. So that was a cute one, a little cheeky one.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, Kijiji, that's definitely how I started. Like, that's where I got all my work, like, initially, back in, like, 2000.
That's where I got my dog. Best dog ever.
You got your dog on Kijiji?
Yeah.
Stella?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like Stella's newer than Kijiji, you know?
Really, yeah.
No, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know, I just been using Facebook Marketplace for, like, the last little while.
Yeah.
But
I would say that's a big competition for those kinds of clients, is like Facebook Marketplace is definitely a good place. That's where I found my apartment.
On Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace?
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Kijiji lets you post things for businesses where Facebook Marketplace doesn't. So that was nice. I don't know. I found like, yeah, at the beginning, Kijiji was awesome. And then like as my kind of career progressed, like those really weren't the jobs I was looking for anymore.
It depends on the audience. It depends on what you're looking for. It depends. Everything's got its purpose. So I think now they're going towards more like house rentals and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's in cars, I think. Don't quote me.
Yeah, that's good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the car and house rental on Facebook it's not that good.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. That's very cool. Yeah, just talking about Kijiji. Okay, back to...
sponsor.
So what is From Napoli with Love? Talk about what that is.
Yeah, so From Napoli with Love was a project that was spearheaded by my brother Luca, and it was part of his MFA project, his thesis project. Started off as a story about the cultural differences between Neapolitan and Windsor pizza, like his favorite food. And once the pandemic hit, he wanted to go to Naples and learn more about this cultural exchange, but with the pandemic, wasn't able to do that. So we banded together, tried to think of a new way to execute this project, and that we came up with learning more about Neapolitan pizza by someone that we know personally, which was our grandmother. So we were able to learn more about like her background as a chef and pizzaiola, and it became a story about food and family.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
I think that came out in 2022. I think 2022, because we were able to screen it at WIFF. Then it was after the pandemic.
You were in it. Mm-hmm. But were you like, and you just said you helped him kind of transition it. Did you do a lot of work on it, like behind the scenes, or was it mostly him?
Yeah, so he was the director and I was the producer, and
okay.
I helped like write as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. How long was that one? That
was a 15-minute film. So I think it's as long as it needed to be. Like still again pretty long for a short film, but yeah, that was our first try at documentary production, and again like filming something that's in the moment and not really knowing where the story can go and the twists and turns and like the dramatics that happen in life just naturally. So it was a very great learning experience.
You said the ones you're currently pitching, what are I know you see they're obviously your ideas, but what are the like genres of them? You kind of said it, but.
Yeah, so one doc we're working on is a science-based documentary. So that's one that it's not my personal idea. So it's like I'm collaborating with other local filmmakers in these pitches. And then another one is a Farsi comedy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay,
which is one of my favorite projects to produce.
That's cool that you dive into so many different genres.
Well, like, I don't know. Like, I know that sometimes, like, people say it's kind of a binary. You're either in nonfiction or you're in fiction. But, I mean, like, I think that, like, what we create can be a spectrum. Like, sometimes we're feeling one thing, sometimes we're feeling another. And I think to me, it's about the story first, whether it's a made-up fiction or it's, like, a nonfiction documentary piece. So it's wherever the heart wants what it wants.
I've never been able to pick a lane with my work.
Well, it's just so, like, art's so beautiful, and it's just, there's just so many different ways we can create, and just, especially if we're doing it as, like, artists and we're doing it for fun and not necessarily just for, like, the money. We're doing it for experience and for storytelling. Like, there's so many different avenues you can tell a story, whether it's in still photography or moving picture or animation or Yeah.
I find like the photographers that are really big and like popular on like social media, Instagram, whatever, they shoot like one genre of work. And for me, I've never been able to do that. And I've just kind of stopped caring about like if, like, I know that if I did want to like really grow in like that way,
Sure.
I would have to just do one thing, but I don't want to just do one thing. Like, I love to shoot all kinds of different things, especially for my personal work. So I've just been like, you know what, I'm just going to do and post whatever I want because that's what I like to do.
It's what fuels the soul, man. Like sometimes they say like you work for food and you work for passion. Like, well, we have to do both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's got to be like a divide.
Totally.
Yeah. But no, it's definitely cool to shift. That's why I've always felt bad for like bands. I feel like I don't know. Let's just think of like one band, for example, who's new and making weird stuff. Okay, so Cigarettes After Sex is really big right now. They're like an indie band with like very like, do you know them?
I've heard the name.
They're like very, very like emotional, very like dark and slow and like sad kind of dramatic music. It's really, really good. Very indie, but like, okay, those guys aren't in that mood all the time. Like, I'm sure they have like really happy days and they love summer days and stuff too. And it sucks that like I always find like, don't they want like, if you can make really good music in that genre, you can make good music everywhere. So like, I'm always like, man, do they want to put out like a happy song?
It unfortunately sometimes it's not in the hands of the artist at that point. You know, it's just like, and that's the thing. Sometimes like when you make that step towards like industry, like sometimes you're not the one who's in control of it. Like that's the thing. It's the food over passion, right? So it's like if they're doing something that their label instructs them to do, that's the food part, where it's like sometimes you see artists who have side projects or side bands and they're doing like other works where it's like they have more control.
Yeah.
But sometimes like when you go past a certain level, like as the artist, sometimes you stop to have that control. And there's pros and cons to it, man. It's just like, you got to do what you got to do.
I love this part about photography and filmmaking, but I also kind of envy the other. So if, for example, like a writer, a musician, a painter, they can do a photo of, let's say, people they can do a story about like Africa. And they don't, like, I guess they can go there for their inspiration, but they can do a painting on people in Africa from home, or they can write a book about it from home. Whereas like a filmmaker, photographer, like if we want to do a project on Africa, we have to go there and live in it.
Totally.
And that's really, really cool, and that's great. But sometimes it's like, man, wouldn't it be easy to not have to do that, you know?
Yeah, it depends on like the story you want to tell and how you want to tell it. So it's just like sometimes like it's how you feel it needs to be executed and what your art is.
I've been wanting to step more like out of my comfort zone and do those, put yourself, because like that's kind of what I'm getting at is like as a photographer, filmmaker, you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to like make our work, because you have to you have to be there to make it, you know. I think good art comes from being uncomfortable.
Totally. And again, it totally depends on the type of art you're creating as well, whether it's like you're physically in a space that's like may not be that safe versus like you're in a situation like in B. Taylor, where there was a lot of discussion on like sexuality and mental illness and like how we need to be respectful of the people that we're documenting as well. And kind of letting them breathe and making sure like your characters and your subjects are comfortable, especially when we're doing something that's nonfiction.
For sure.
Because even like I know you've done photography in like Cuba and stuff, and like how you're choosing to present like a certain place, even if it's like an impoverished place, it's like how are you choosing to show beauty within that place? Yeah,
and even as a photographer where I'm shooting what's going on, I can still definitely like, you can still like control the narrative of
totally
how it's shown, especially how you place like a sequence of photos together can really change.
It tells the story.
Yeah. And you can definitely shift like the narrative of that.
Totally.
How you want. So you kind of have to be like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's about being honest, but also like respectful. And like, obviously as artists, whether we want to believe it or not, like we all have a bias. And so it's like, we need to be cognizant of how we're presenting our bias and whether we want to showcase it or we try not to be. But at the end of the day, there is always something it is still through our perspective, even if we're trying to tell someone else's perspective. It's interesting.
I think if you have like a good, like, you're always trying to like not be offensive or rude, or you're always trying to like show things in like a nice way. But I think if you have a good heart, it'll come through anyway.
Sure. And sometimes like you do have to get into the grittiness of showing something that is like ugly, whether it's like literal or figurative, but still doing so in a respectful way. And that's a big challenge. Like, it's just like sometimes life isn't beautiful. Sometimes a scenery isn't perfect, but it's just like, how do we do that in a truthful, respectful way? Yeah.
Sometimes it's people do a really good job of showing unfortunate situations, and it's really hard to do that in a way. Like, there's a lot of famous like photographers and filmmakers who have showed like homelessness very like tastefully, or drug addicts or whatever very tastefully, and that's really hard to do. And I find like the people who are famous, like documentary filmmakers and photographers who are famous and have already kind of like proven themselves, it's easier for them to go make that work. Whereas like somebody just starting out, it's like, what are you trying to show here? You know?
Yeah, you need to be very aware and sometimes very specific of what you want to show and how you want to show it.
Yeah, 100%. So what are your like general goals for like, where do you want to be in the next 10 years?
Oh my gosh, that's what we talk about every other day, and it's always different. I don't know, man. Like, I know I want to be creating in 10 years, man. Oh my God. I know I want to still be creating, like whether, like obviously still film. If I could continue doing theater as well at one point, like that'd be a dream. The next 10 years, maybe I'd like to teach as well, like teach and work on film projects as well. I just know I want to keep creating. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know where. But as long as I'm creating and I'm working with great people and just collaborating with great people, that'll make me happy.
Do you think are all your personal project plans with Cal for here on out? Like, are you guys going to do all this stuff together for the most part?
We usually do. Whether it's like, but it depends sometimes if an idea is a right fit for either one of us. Like, we always help each other in some way, especially like in the writing process or like just second opinions. Like, there's projects that Cal's interested in that like I'm like, okay, like I'll help produce in this way. Or it's like there's projects that like I'm interested in that like might not be his forte, but we still help each other in any way we can. But we're obviously realistic of what our abilities are and like if our skill sets are right for that project. And I think that's something that's like quite mature to realize about yourself as an artist, of where your strengths and weaknesses are. And like, just because we're partners doesn't mean we always have to be like above the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do what's best for the project is what's best for us.
Yeah, like you don't have to do everything.
We don't have to be writer and DOP of every single thing we do. Like, if it's not best for that project, then like, what can we do to help execute this project the best way it can be? Yeah. And we won't get offended by each other. That like we're aware of like where we still need to learn. Like, we're still not like perfect filmmakers yet either. We're still very much learning, but we're going to be learning until we die, you know?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, no, that's cool. So do you think that you'll ever leave, like I know it's definitely in the cards for you to come back here or stay in Toronto. Do you think you'd ever go anywhere else?
I don't know. Like, Toronto is like probably, as of now, at this point in my life, like, is as far as I'll go, just because like family and friends are very important to me, and like we always come down once a month and we're always seeing friends and family, and any farther would make me sad if I didn't see anybody that like are those people that we care most about as frequently. That's one of the draws that brings us back to Windsor, because like career is important, but so is like our family and relationships and stuff. Would I go anywhere else? I don't know. It'd have to be like a crazy opportunity.
Yeah.
But even then, like, who knows?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
The future is open.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So what did I want to talk about now? If you got back into theater, what would you want to do?
I love directing, and like I like performing too. But like, I know if I had to self-reflect, I think objectively, I think I'm a better director than I am like a theater performer. Like I love doing it, but I think as a director, I think that's my strongest skill set. So I'd love to direct and I still love to perform. And obviously producing comes with that too. Just creating, man. I just love being part of the process.
For sure. Do you guys go to the movies into shows a lot? Do you go to like shows, like production shows?
Like theater or film?
Yeah.
As much as I can. I mean, like it's a lot more, I know I got to get more into like, I want to find more community theaters to view in Toronto, but I think the thing is with Toronto, it's just so, it's going to sound so silly, but like just to get around, it's not like Windsor where it's just like everything's 15 minutes away. Like 15 minutes in Toronto is like an hour. So it kind of takes a lot to get out of your house and out of like your neighborhood, but like we try to catch films as much as we can in Toronto. And then live theater as much as you can, but it's it's a lot more expensive than going to the community theaters in Windsor. So we try as much as we can and however we can afford it.
Yeah, for sure. What are some current movies that are on your list that you want to see right now?
We want to go see Nosferatu. We'll probably see that in January once we're back in Toronto. But then films this year that we saw like Anora, we really, really liked this year. I thought The Substance was really, really fun. Beginning of the year, I'm not sure. Did you see like Love Lies Bleeding? Mm-mm. Very fun, very like weird, experimental, like wild psychological thriller. There's some good. We like some obscure films as well.
I like films that inspire me to do photos. See, for you, it's like a film inspires you to make a film.
Yes.
I'm kind of looking at it as like what inspires me to take like pictures, I guess. Like I really liked Asteroid City for that. Yeah.
I haven't seen Asteroid City yet, but
what?
No, I haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I just watched it for the color grading.
We watch a lot more. We watch a lot more like TV series.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's just like right now we're watching like I'll watch two at the same time that are completely opposite. So right now it's between like Sopranos and American Dad right now.
You guys started watching Sopranos? Did you tell me that you started watching it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When did you guys start watching it?
As soon as we got back from Labor Day weekend. As soon as you were like, you gotta watch it. So we're on season 5. We were told we need to savor it.
It's good. Eh?
It's very, very good. I like it a lot. But it's funny. And again, like that's kind of the content that I love to watch too. That's like dramatic and dark and like comedically violent.
They say it's a comedy disguised as a drama.
Totally. Because like we laugh in every episode. Like it's so the performances are fantastic. Like
the rewatch is better than the first watch.
I've heard. I even talked to my hairdresser yesterday. She's like, "Yeah, I've watched it twice."
Yeah, 100 at least.
It's good
because it's so well done from like an artistic point of view that there's so many hidden elements that you can't see the first time. It's impossible.
And you can see a lot of TV shows that came after it, how they use that as a reference visually and story wise. Like even, did you get into Breaking Bad?
Yep, I watched Breaking Bad.
Big reference for Breaking Bad.
Yeah, they say Sopranos changed everything for like the.
It's so interesting. It's just so interesting.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah,
good reco.
All like the hidden themes in it and. Yeah, the comedy. Oh, it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's dramatically hilarious in a lot of parts.
And it never gets stupid. And they're not afraid to be like boring, I guess. Like they'll just show scenes in the house.
It's the nuances. But that's what brings the rawness to it as well.
Yeah. Just like they're just hanging out in the house. Like it's nice to see those things, you know? I saw it was like a poster for it, like when it was out or something, and it said Tony Soprano and his gang of dangerous idiots, and that kind of changed my perspective because it is true they're all really unintelligent, people.
Yeah,
they're just dangerous and violent, but they're really dumb.
It's the street smarts, but for that time, and it's even like the show for the time to be a mob boss, like who needs mental health help is quite like for that time, like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
how they did that. They say it's so accurate to like I heard somewhere, don't quote me on this, but I heard that like the FBI contacted like David Chase and was like, how do you guys know these things? Like it's so accurate to how
very interesting
like the New Jersey like crime family was at that time.
It takes good research, man. Like that's the thing. It's like to tell a story that's like authentic and like that's what keeps you watching is the realness of it. And so it's like some of the situations, like no spoilers, but like the dog that makes me sad.
The dog
Christopher and Adriana's dog.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, I think about that very often, and it's just like, yeah, like I can see that happening.
What season are you on?
We're on 5.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything,
Don't
but
spoil anything.
that dog translates to something bigger. You might have already seen it, but I'm not going to spoil it. It's kind of cool how everything gets tied together.
Mm-hmm. It's very.
You can spoil things for the listeners.
No,
now that we warned it, but I'm not going to spoil things for you.
No, don't.
It's it's something that I really noticed in the show. And I don't know if you've noticed it too, but the first season it's a sunny day every day. In season 5, there's not much sun anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, when I watch a show, I'm like, I always think, or even a film, I'm like, I can't wait to rewatch this.
Yeah.
Like if I'm really enjoying it, like I'm like, I can't wait to watch this for a second time.
The Sopranos is the only show that I've watched, finished, and immediately rewatched the entire thing.
That's what sold us. When you said that, we were like, okay, we'll watch it. So we literally watched it the day we got back from the cottage. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are savoring it though.
Yeah. Well, it's also busy, like plus the wedding and stuff.
True.
Like,
in
like we're like doing our 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. Like that's TV is our thing that like lets us chill out for a sec.
We're doing it's winter, so we're doing Harry Potter right now.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, it's been a while. I know. I think I have to watch Lord of the Rings before we go to New Zealand.
Is there a new one? I heard there's a new one at the show or something.
There's a new one. Callum was very into Lord of the Rings, where I was more Harry Potter.
Yeah, I've never seen Lord of the Rings.
So I think before New Zealand, we'll have to like watch them all.
That's not true. I saw the first Lord of the Rings. And I used to love Star Wars, but honestly, like Harry Potter's the best.
I like Harry Potter. Cal said at his work, it was a very divisive conversation where they were like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, and it got heated.
Did it?
Yeah.
In my, just my personal point of view, like not that one's better than the other. I've just like love Harry Potter even more now.
Yeah. It's just fun. Like I remember my parents would always take us to opening night of the Harry Potter films. I've never read the books, but like I really enjoyed the films growing up.
Juliana's read the books.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if it ruins the movies for her, because half the time she's like, "That's not what happens."
I know. But luckily they're good films.
They're so good.
But yeah, I never read the books. But it's like I imagine someone who did. Like what changed.
You know what's funny is somebody like I'm gonna contradict what I just said, but she'll watch the films and like she agrees that there's some of the best books of all time, but the films are still amazing.
Yeah.
Even though the books are always going to be better though.
Because you can do more. Like it's like a book can be as long as you want. Where it's like for a film, like you want to watch a 4 or 5 hour film. You want to make like how expensive that is. Like it's just like what was it? They had to split into 2. Was it Deathly Hallows? They had to split into 2.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even Wicked splitting that into 2. Imagine how expensive and how long. Like
The Hobbit they split into 3.
Oh my god.
9 hours.
Cal said he watched at least the first 3 back to back to back. He said it was almost too long. That's got to be long, right?
Yeah, they're all 3 hours long.
Yeah, he said it was hard near the end.
Yeah, for sure. You know what's funny? For Harry Potter, Juliana's favorite book is her least favorite movie, I'm pretty sure.
Which one?
I think 3. It's her least favorite movie.
Is that not Chambers?
No, that's Prisoner of Azkaban. I think it's her favorite book, and it's her least favorite movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. The last 2 split into 2 is really cool.
Yeah, I need to rewatch them again. It's been years, man. It's been years. Like I know I've watched the first one. Obviously, watch a bunch of times, but like I'd like to rewatch all those again. Just need time, man.
I know it's a lot. It's like watching a show to watch all the Harry Potters.
It is, and like long
it takes
show.
Some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the video game, like the Hogwarts game. So I've been playing that. It's like it came out like 2 or 3 years ago, but I just got it, and it's like open world.
Which system?
It's on like all the new ones, like Series X, PlayStation 5, computer. It's on sale right now. That's why I got it, because it's like $100 game, but it's like $25.
Wow.
And you can go like everywhere, which is really cool. It's not like limited. So that's really interesting. But it's kind of cool to just be able to create like somebody that's all just like one person's brain.
It's crazy.
Whole world and everything.
Especially as the writer, like as a filmmaker, like there's a lot of people who do have like. There can be quite a few cooks in the kitchen, but ultimately, like it's just very interesting.
Yeah.
Which is why I like animation too, man, especially for fantasy and like slapstick comedy. Like that's why I love like adult cartoons, where it's just like it can cross the line even further with like how ridiculous something can be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think that when there's more hands in the pot, there's more, like in fiction, do you think there's more room for plot holes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, this is just my humble opinion. Like, when there's so many cooks in the kitchen and you have people like execs and stuff making comments of like what needs to be in the film, because you're thinking, man, for a big project like big films, like they're thinking of their target audience, how they're going to sell it. Like at the end of the day, like there can be product placement. There can be a lot of things that you have to do in order to create like your art or bring your fantasy and your art to life. So it's like sometimes that's what I think hard about, like once you hit it big, is having those hands.
Yeah. That's the thing about seeing a show so many times is you really see all the plot holes.
Yeah.
The Sopranos, isn't that the Sopranos pilot has a ton of plot holes, but I don't like to judge off the pilot.
Fair.
Because that's not really fair.
Yeah.
To judge based out. In the pilot, there's a few things. There's a decent amount of things.
There's one plot that I'm not going to mention out on it because it's a really dark part of the plot, but like I hope it gets resolved. It's been seasons, and we're like, what happened to this plot line?
In The Sopranos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't tell me. I'm not going to bring it up. It's one of the darker. It's a darker time.
It's a darker thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know. It's. I'm not gonna spoil it for you either.
Okay. I'm like, it has to. Like, there's no way they put so much emphasis on this very traumatic thing and not like wrap it up. They better wrap it up. Okay, don't tell me.
Okay, there's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. It's been a few years now, but I wanted to like just ask you questions and have you explain it. What was Boys vs. Girls, and what was your role on that and everything? That's old now. That's like what, 5 years old?
Oh my God. We shot it in 2018.
Whoa. So that's almost 7 years old.
Release? I think it released in 2019 because it was before the pandemic. That was one of the first feature projects I got to work on out of school. So my professor, Mike Stasko, brought me on as an associate producer, and I was able to learn so much, like just working on a feature film. And that was my first time on set, how many ever days that was, 15, 16 days. And being able to go through that experience with like my other peers in school, and just being mentored by our professors on this project. Like it was really sick. Like we learned a lot.
That movie's on like Tubi or something, isn't it?
Crave?
Crave, yeah.
Must be Crave.
How long is that?
Probably no more than an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah, that's like, you guys filmed that, because I'm friends with Rachel.
Oh, yeah.
And is she the main character?
Yeah.
And I remember, like when she was doing that, we did like a photo shoot the day before and she got mosquito bites and she was like freaking out.
Yep, oh my God, the amount of mosquito. I remember being so grossed out because I'd never been camping before. It was a camp movie, and just the amount of like fish flies like before that film, just being like squeamish with it, then to just like wiping them off like your arms. Oh my God, like that. I definitely developed a thicker skin with like insects on that film.
So you were there for 2 weeks for that, like straight?
Oh, more than 2 weeks, at least 3. It must have been at least 3 weeks. We shot a majority of it. What was it, near Kingsville? I forget what the camp was called.
Did you stay there the whole time?
I didn't stay overnight. I went home. Mm-hmm. But some people were able to, like, some of the crew and the cast were able to stay, like, in the cabins. Because I don't know if Rachel stayed. I forget if she stayed. She must have. I think she was living somewhere else at the time.
Okay.
So she would have stayed overnight, I think. But yeah, we went home because like my brother and I had the car, so we were able to go back and forth. I know Cal stayed.
And Cal and Lou worked on that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So Cal and I first started dating too.
Really?
Yeah. So it was right before. And he stayed over. He had a blow-up mattress in his van with no AC. So it's just like, it was like a lot of people staying at one place. So it's like, it really became like a little family on that set.
Yeah, that's cool. So Cal and Luca, like, what'd they do? They manned cameras?
No. Cal was a key grip, so he's in the lighting department, and Luca was second AC, I think. So that was one of his first projects that he second AC'd, and now he's a union second AC.
Yeah, he's in the union in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So he does, what does an AC do? Does he work cameras?
So second AC is in the camera department, so he'll like do his camera reports, he'll like do the take one, the clapping, and then there's obviously going to be more to that role, but I'm not in that department.
He does more shows than commercials?
Yeah, he'll do more like TV shows, he'll do films, and then sometimes do commercials, but usually those are non-union.
Okay.
But sometimes they are, so it's like, it's more like the series and stuff.
And Cal's job, like he shoots for like commercial companies.
Yeah, so he works at like a boutique agency, so he does like the shooting and the editing, and I think in coordination as well.
That's a lot.
So he does a lot. He's a lot. Like he's wearing a lot of hats.
It's funny because in Windsor you'll wear all the hats, but you're usually doing things for yourself. Up there, wearing that many hats for a company is a lot of work.
It's a big benefit because it's just like, I don't know, especially now, like even see like broadcasters or like you see news reporters, and it's like one person doing camera, hosting, and doing it all. So it's just like they want you to wear more hats than just one. It used to just be like specializing in like one specific role, but like just now, like I just feel like budgets in general, like no matter what you're on, especially for the non-union world, it's cheaper to have one person do a lot of things.
Yeah,
except for non-union.
Yeah, and there's also a lot more room for people to make mistakes when they're doing too many things at once too, right?
No, and that's what's really interesting is like for myself, like I only wear a few hats. Like I'm not technical really at all. So it's just like those who, I think there's an expectation that if you're technical, you can do a lot of things. And I think that it's a spectrum, man. It's just like, it's hard to put that all in one person because it's like how you're supposed to focus on like so many different areas. Like there's a lot of room for error. So I think it is important to like bring together people who are really good at different roles, but sometimes you have the budget for it, sometimes you don't. And like, what do you do?
I think being in a wedding industry, it really teaches you how to wear all those hats and not make mistakes. You have to,
and that's the thing. It's like at least like there's pros and cons to everything. It's just like at least when you're a one man band, like you know what you're responsible for. Like you have an idea and a script of what the day is gonna go like. Where it's just like, yeah, like it's just it's money, man.
Photos is easy, but when filming a wedding, you're doing so much and it's just you and like a second shooter that like for audio you don't have, so I put 3 or 4 mics everywhere because you don't have time, you can't monitor them because you're shooting and you just don't have time to, you just can't do everything. So instead of like having one mic and like that's your mic and you can like monitor it and everything, even if you do that with one, it's still a wedding. Like you still need so many. Like we have stuff everywhere. Like there's a mic there and there's a mic there and there's a mic there and there's like cameras over here, and it's just like, yeah, you just have to like cover all your bases. It just goes so fast.
But that's why it's so important for roles like that to like pay your artists like a fair wage, because like it is high risk at the end of the day. It's just like you are responsible for so many different things, and it's just like, I know sometimes people get like put off by like how much an artist like costs for their work, but it's just like there's a lot that goes into it, man. Like it's skill, it's like your technology, it's your knowledge. Like it's not just like for fun. Like if you want quality, like you need to be aware of what you need. Like your artist needs to be on it. And it's important to try to pay artists for their work.
I will say with weddings, we are paid well for those.
But you have to be.
Yeah. Like
you have to be if like it depends on obviously what you want at the end of the day, but it's just like if you want something super simple, like nothing, like something that's not polished, it's one thing, but it's just like if you want something that is polished, that looks perfect, like you get what you pay for.
Like I have a lot of people ask for things that are just simple and basic just so they're kind of cheaper, and I never want to deliver something that looks like that.
Sure.
At the end of the day.
But that's your product at the end of the day. That's your choice as the artist of accepting what you want to accept. Because it is your work at the end of the day. Yeah.
Because if somebody does have a problem with something like
it's hard to the justification.
It's hard to be like, well, you didn't pay for that. You know, so it's might as well just never do those and just always do the best, and you get the best product, and that's it because you did pay for it.
And even if you do your best, you're always gonna get someone who like still like it's just the vicious cycle of client and artist work.
I find with weddings, it's more about how I am like personally that day than even my work.
Totally, but it's part of the experience. Like it's all. Like, I mean, like when you did our wedding, like we just had a great time. And like, yeah, but it was exactly what we wanted. Like we wanted something that was more about the journey than the final product. And still the final product was amazing.
Yeah. I had like one of my favorite reviews somebody left me on Google was, we had so much fun that we feel like the photos are like a bonus.
Totally. And that's how we felt too. Cause we did the first look and stuff. It was just like, once we finished the photos, I was like, oh, it was a good day. And then I was like, we didn't even get married yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, we still have a whole other half the day.
Yeah, your photos were super fun. 10 out of 10 photos.
I agree.
Yeah. Isn't it? Like, it wasn't even that long ago, and it was, like, beautiful outside and warm and hot. Now it's, like, the dead of winter, and it's cold.
I walked outside today, but it feels like spring.
Yeah, I guess
like,
today's good.
Today was fine, but, like, we just got, like, that was just, like...
Yeah, you guys had a
extreme luck.
Yeah.
For October, man, like...
Because I did a wedding 3 weeks after yours, and it was, like, crazy cold.
The week before, man, it was Thanksgiving weekend, and it was just,
cold.
like, it was terrible. It was rainy, it was windy, we didn't have any wind. Like, I didn't even think about, like, how...
Your wedding was a summer wedding at the end of October, for sure.
Yeah. It was just, but a nice, it wasn't too hot. It wasn't hot,
yeah.
Because even, too, like, in your dresses, like, are we going to be freaking cold? Like, am I going to need, like, a shawl? Nothing for October. Mid-October, man. Sick.
You guys were good.
We're very, very lucky.
I had three weddings in November, and they were all very cold. The end of the month ones is like, yeah, of course it's going to be cold. I had 2 on like the last weekend, but mine, the first weekend was very cold too, which, for that one, you're kind of hoping it's not, but you do take a risk.
Well, too, it's like we booked the wedding like almost 2 years in advance. Like, all right, hopefully it's nice. If not, where are we going to shoot our photos? And that's the thing too. It's like when you're a photographer, like you're doing videography, it's like you have to think of your plan B. And I don't even remember what our plan B was. We didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
We're just very lucky.
Yeah. A lot of times in Windsor, you do get, like, I don't know, brides are pretty tough on their wedding. Like those ones I was telling you that are super cold, all the brides stayed outside the whole time and did photos. They don't.
But can you tell they're cold? Do they look cold?
The bridesmaids look cold, but brides are tough. The only thing is if they start to get red.
I would get red in 2 seconds.
They didn't get red. It was like, I did a wedding on the 29th and the 30th this year, and it was like negative 10 or 12 degrees. And both my brides wanted to shoot outside. One, we shot outside for a while. One, we just shot outside for a few minutes. The one that was a few minutes, she was in bare feet outside in a dress by the lake. And so I have like my dress clothes and everything. And I said, are we shooting outside? And they said, yep. And I said, okay, I'll be right back. And I went and I put on like 100 sweaters, jackets, gloves, face, everything. And I was like, I will stay outside as long as you want.
Wow.
Like I make sure like I'm comfortable.
Good for you.
Cause like the one when it was that cold, we were outside for an hour. And I was like, I'm going to be comfortable so I can do a good job for you guys. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go put on a big bright red winter coat and I'm going to feel comfy.
That is my worst self. My worst self is like in the cold. When we did Cal's film, it was called Continuum. Like he was supposed to be, this is for his MFA. He was supposed to be like the lead character subject. And he's like, Gemma, can you hold the camera? Day one, I'm like, this isn't going to work out. So in the end, like I ended up being the subject and he was filming and it was Point Peely. It was so cold, man. It must have been like must have been like December, like November, December, Point Peely, just a sweater. And like that performance was method. Like it was just so cold, so unhappy, just in the cold. But it's just like it worked for the performance.
Yeah.
But I just like I hate being cold.
I know, but I don't know. Brides don't get cold. That's my theory.
Well, I was sweating, and like even when we were at the reception, like I was like, I'm wearing a quilt, man. I have to change. I was like, I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like plus the adrenaline too. You're just like not thinking about it. Like on the day, you're just like.
And they want their wedding photos.
They'll suck it up. Like for beauty, you know what? Beauty is pain. They say.
Yeah, and like both of these weddings, like we got sick pictures because they were tough.
You got to be, yeah.
Yeah.
We had it easy, I guess.
Yeah, you guys had like the perfect temperature of all time.
Well, even just like the lighting too. Like for October, like every beat of the day was like perfect lighting. Like even like right before we ate, like that was the sunset. First dance was like sunset, especially with the big windows and stuff. Like.
Your actual sunset.
Because if it was summer, it would just be bright outside still. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even your midday photos. I was saying that to you. I was like, this is the nicest light I've ever seen.
Yeah. October, man. October brides. Do it.
Yeah, October brides, yeah. That's pretty much all my like questions I had. Do you have anything that you wanted to add? You got anything coming out? I guess right now you're just shopping B-Tail around,
shopping.
right?
What are you doing? What are you working on?
Well, I am like pushing California Gold still.
Nice.
So like trying to get that places.
Yeah.
I just got it on like their a Brooklyn film camera, like a big film store in New York.
Okay.
They have like a bookshelf when you walk in of like just different like local photographers' books, and it's there.
Very cool.
Like just so people in New York can kind of see it, which is sick. But yeah, just like kind of getting that into some places. It's really easy to get them in local stores.
Sure.
It's hard to get them other places.
Everything like every, like, whatever project you're doing, it's going to be helpful for your next project in any artistic field.
But I think I decided on my next big project yesterday, and I came up with a name. It's gonna, I can say it, it's gonna be, I'm gonna do like something local.
Cool.
All local, but I want to do like a couple years.
That's great.
A couple years. I
think it's very cool. Like, especially when you have a couple years to like it'll show an evolution of whatever you're doing, and like time, like, priceless.
Yeah, because I'm working on, you know what's funny is, like, California Gold, like I was saying about B. Taylor, like, I worked on that for 2.5 years, like, so much work. And by the time you're finally, like, showing it, you're already working on the next thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's just this, it's very cyclical. And it's just like, you got to love the journey because you just can't stop doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to, like, while I'm working on this, I'm going to work on other things too.
Oh, you have to.
I don't want to be
you
in a
have
rush.
to. Yeah. I think about 10 things at one time.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me about doing something at home is, when does it end? Because every book I've done has been a trip, and it ends when the trip's done. Like, that's when the shooting ends.
Your heart will know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That comes with, like, the maturity of the artist of when to call it. Like, you can edit something into oblivion, but it's just like, at one point, like, you got to call it. So giving yourself a deadline, that helps me, like, giving myself deadlines or promising something else, or like, it's like I have to set myself like different goals or different milestones, or else like I won't do it.
Sometimes that's why grants are good, because they usually give you a timeline.
That's what's great. That's another great thing where it's like, okay, I write them all down in my calendar, like when I need to get something done by, and like it really pushes you. And
I'll probably apply for the ACHF grant for this because it's really all at home this time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know what I'm going to do so I know when it's done is I'm going to call it part 1.
Yeah.
Because I figure I'll shoot here for the rest of my life.
But you do phases. Like, even if you apply for grants, like phase 1 could be like your pre-development, then it's like your shooting, then it's your post stuff, then it's your, if you want to do your framing, like you can do it in different phases.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think that's a good idea, because then I'll be like, oh, I didn't shoot here, I didn't do this, and like, what if and I'm going to continue, like, even when it's done, like, I'm going to keep wanting to shoot around here.
Totally.
So I'll just do like, this is a part 1, and then like in 10 years I'll do a part 2 or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll see. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching, everybody. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
And I am